Welcome to Rishikesh. This is Elise from the Yogic Herald. Here today with the wonderful Anandra George, American by birth, Indian by soul, and global citizen by expression. Anandra is a pioneer in the global yoga community. She's created the world's first registered yoga teacher training school based on the transformational power of sound. A mantra teacher and sacred musician. Welcome, Anandra.
Pleasure.
So Anandra, what I've noticed out here in Rishikesh is a lot of the sacred practices and the chanting sometimes begins with Om, and in other places in India, Om. OM and AUM. So what is the difference between these two?
Well, I think if you asked just about anybody, you would get as many different answers about that. And in the deepest part of myself and in the deepest reflection of really the essence of all the teachers of my gurus, Om is actually not audible. Like, it's a representation, an audible representation of the inaudible primal pulse of creation. So anytime that we're trying to enunciate a representation of that sound, a little bit distanced from it, I think. So we have to, rather than thinking what's the correct way to make the sound, I think we should turn our attention inward to find the source of the sound and let that living pulse be the focus of our meditation. So that's kind of the high level answer. And to drop it right down to the practical part, there's in the Mandukya Upanishad, it speaks about the 4 different parts of the mantra Om, Ah, U, and silence. And so you would imagine then in the practice of chanting Om, you would want to meditate on Ah, meditate on U, meditate on and meditate on silence. If you were going to do that mantra as a yogic exploration, and the duration of Ah to U and U to and the whole thing to silence is something that certain teachers have like percentages for. My personal opinion is that I think you should allow that exploration to be your own. And if you're going to chant in a rhythm, like if you're doing a kirtan and it starts like Om Namah Shivaya,
Thank you. Also, people speak about different mantras. This is the mantra you should always chant. This mantra does this. Is one mantra better than another? And is there one mantra that's better for a certain person? How does that work?
I kind of flip it back on you in the, using like Ayurveda and herbs. Is there one medicine that's good for everybody? Yes and no. There are certain mantras and certain ideas, certain thoughts, certain divine thoughts that would be beneficial to anybody and everybody for a general tonic of health. Maybe like in Ayurveda, something like turmeric or amla, but even then you have to give, contraindications for certain people in certain states of health. So with mantras, there are certain divine sounds and divine thoughts that would help anyone to turn within and to remember their eternal, infinite, godly nature. Maybe something like Om Namah Shivaya, or the simple mantra of the breath, the So Hum, which is I am that infinite divine. There are many others that you would consider like Taraka mantras, those that help one to cross over the ocean of birth and death. But there's, I think that to say that any one mantra is the best mantra is really maybe a lack of knowledge of all the other mantras. I think it's presumptuous to say that my mantra, even though my mantra has been amazing for me, that it would be amazing for you. Yeah.
Great.
And I think, so here we are in Rishikesh, and probably every yogi who has ever lived at any point in time has been here in some birth or another. And if you're drawn to these practices, you have a resonance, a pre-established resonance that is going to magnetize you to itself. And the pattern of that resonance is probably due to the previous practice that you've had. And some of us might have had practice in the whole spectrum, the Devi mantras, the Shiva mantras, the Vishnu mantras, Rama, Krishna, any number of different pathways to the divine. And so the mantra that speaks to you and that like rings that deep, deep bell inside of you will most likely have something to do with your personal soul history. And I don't think anyone can prescribe that for another person. I think it's a matter of allowing the resonance to wake you up and to awaken your sense of the deep listening, which is the eternal guru.
Yeah.
The guru awakens the mantra, but it's the guru in the heart, where when you have that moment when, I hope you've had those moments, I hope you've had those moments when like the truth is just shaking through your being, and with every cell, with every fiber of your being that this is it.
Yeah, especially out here in Rishikesh. I've had those
I'm
moments.
shivering, but not just from the cold. Yeah, no, it's easy to have those moments here because there's such an echo of the prayers here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so these mantras, they're in Sanskrit, and so many people come in here and all over the world that are chanting these mantras who have very little or no knowledge of Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Can it have any impact, or can you speak to the impact these mantras can have for people who don't understand them?
Well, I can speak to that with the authority of my own experience, which is that when I first came to India in 1997, when I was just turned 19, I had no idea about anything, but I had that bell going off experience in myself, and I knew that this mantra thing, this was home for me. And I went on and I tried to learn, but I couldn't really find any resources to properly extract the skill that I was looking for. And so, and nobody really talked about Sanskrit or having to learn the 50 letters, or I didn't even know anything about the 5 mouth positions that are, the prescription for the resonance points in the mouth and the palate. And so I just went on for about 13 years practicing mantra as I could hear it, which turns out was not quite dialed in to the resonance of the ideal Sanskrit. And then I was teaching a mantra class I guess it was maybe about 10 or 12 years ago, and one of my students asked me a Sanskrit question, a pronunciation question that I didn't have the answer to. I didn't even know what he meant by the question. So that was a sign to go back deeper into study, and then I went into I really honed in deep onto the sounds of the Sanskrit, and I found that my previous 13 years of practice definitely benefited me in the sense that I had focus, I had devotion, and I definitely had grace from that.
Yeah.
But once I learned the Sanskrit, it was like the fire in the sound just burned through the obstacles, and it went from being like a seeking to connect to an instant connection.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Anandra, thank you for joining us on this chilly but beautiful winter morning here in Rishikesh.
Yeah.
Anandra George leads the Heart Sound teacher training courses and will be performing and teaching at the International Yoga Festival in Rishikesh next year.
Yeah, come chant with us on the banks of the Ganga. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, blessings. Yeah.
Namaste.
Thanks, Elise.
Thank you.